lonely things. So, do you want me to sit there? Switch with you? If there's a question. I think that would be a better move now. I know.
And then it's like I'm with my mom.
Can you see them good, Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we in the way?
No,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
perfect actually.
Hospitality, but it's like hospitality. It's like
Hospitality.
Hospitality. Better sit here.
Hospitality.
Thanks.
Come here, Pete.
Sorry.
I'll bring you.
Okay, so this week, so a couple weeks ago, Bianca shared her testimony, and like I said, our main point is to reiterate why we're sharing our testimonies, because we want to show that our lives have been transformed by the gospel and by Jesus, and to show you, to tell you how, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, Jesus saved me, and to move on, but when you really talk about what we were saved from, that is really impactful, because you're actually dealing with real issues now, real things that real people struggle with. To say you were saved is just very vague, but then to go on to describe circumstances you were saved from, that's where the story is, and that's where and you think about that in any aspect of life. I mean, literally, if you were saved from some incident, like one time my life was saved, you'd be like, okay, cool, But if you go on to describe this battle where all was lost and like you were surely gone, and then you're like, and then someone came and saved me. That's more powerful. And so, yeah, we'll go on to share my testimony and what Jesus has done for me. I want to pray real quick just to make sure that everything I say is from God. So, dear God in heaven, thank you so much for your love for us. Thank you for the worship. Thank you for who you are. You are God of heaven, the heavens, and you are God of earth. And you are so high and lifted up, and your ways are so much higher than our ways. And we can't even imagine, we can't even picture you. And the fact that you came down to earth, that you take notice of us every day. You became one of us, you died for us, you loved us while we were sinners, and saved us from our sins. It's so powerful. You were the hero in our story, and we just love you and thank you for what you did. We were completely lost without you. And I know I was, and I pray, Heavenly Father, that you would please speak through me, just soften everyone's hearts, including my own, to the reality of who we are compared to who you are, and just help people to receive it, and if it impacts anyone's life, I pray that it would do so in a positive way, and in a way that brings you honor and glory, and not myself, or not just shame for the sake of shame, or for any other ulterior motive, but I pray that it would build up your kingdom, and build up this body, and people's relationships and walks with you. So it's in your Son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, basically, we grew up in like the same church, so it's just a little side note. But this was prior to me ever going to this church. This was like when I was 3 or 4. I can't remember the age. I barely remember anything from that time, obviously. But I remember sitting in, we have bunk beds. I still have these same bunk beds. I was sitting in my top bunk bed, which was mine. And my sister was up there with me. And we were having some conversation, I don't know. But she basically got upset with me and said I was going to hell. And so I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this place, But it sounded bad, so I was like, what does this mean? I asked her, and she's like, well, it's a place you're going to spend eternity in torment and fire. Yeah. So I was really bothered by this because she's my sister, I trust her. So I took it as true, like, wow, that's terrible. So I went to my mom and asked my mom if I was going to hell when I died. And she said, well, yeah, yes. And I was like, well, what do I have to do to not go to hell? And so she explained to me, you need Jesus. So I was like, well, I want Jesus. And it was simple. It was nothing. There was no like, did he do what he honestly, I didn't understand anything. I just knew I needed Jesus. So, did you pray with me? I don't know what I prayed. I don't remember. But I knew I needed Jesus. So I prayed and I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm good now.
I'm cool.
and I don't remember how this got into my mind. But I think maybe I was a big fan of Peter Pan. So every night, and people still tell me this to this day because I don't know who all heard me, but every time I would pray, and every night that I would pray for Jesus to come back soon because I wanted to fly and go to heaven. So that's what I would pray, and then I would pray for a couple of missionaries that for some reason made an impact on me at 3 or 4. So I would pray for them. And everyone remembers this because every time I pray these things for years and years. I grew up in church. I knew God from like an earliest age. I believed the Bible. I believed what it said. I ate it up. I loved it. I loved Him. Couldn't wait for Jesus to come back. I was just every day like expecting it. It was real to me, and it was always real to me for years and years and years. And I stayed away from, honestly, things to. A lot of the things that they basically tell you stay away from a church, I just stayed away from them. I didn't date. I didn't, drink. I didn't party. I didn't, I had one set mind. And I don't think, I don't know, yeah, I could probably tell you better. It wasn't from a self-righteous standpoint, I didn't think. That in my mind, I was trying to be as faithful to God as I could. And I think for the most part, I was. Somewhere over the course of, I don't know how many years, you start thinking about what you want to do with your life. It just starts, you're a little kid, you just start, I want to do this, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an astronaut, I sort of started to narrow it down. I felt compelled to decide what I wanted to do at an early age. And many of my family members are in the military. A lot of family members in the military. And my dad was in the military. His dad was in the military. Uncles, cousins, everyone just not everyone, but a lot of people go to the military. And so I was thinking, I would read books, military books. My dad was a big, he was in the military during Vietnam, and a lot of his friends were in the military during Vietnam. So when they would get together and talk, it'd be stories about Vietnam, stories about the military. And I ate that up too. And so I was, in my mind, just kind of developed this, that's what I want to do. That's what it means to be a man, is to go into the military and go fight in wars and whatever, So I decided that's what I'm going to do. And so my dad was a big fan of, he liked to read Navy SEAL books. So I would read a bunch of Navy SEAL books. There's a lot of them about their time in Vietnam and whatnot. And I ate that stuff up too. And I decided from an early age I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. My granddad, he always wanted to go in the Navy. He wanted to be a submariner. So he would tell me stories about World War II, and I would eat that stuff up. My dad tried to, he didn't try and convince me not to go in the military, but he tried to steer me towards a more beneficial route for me, career-wise, like you should go be a pilot, not a Navy SEAL. One is more beneficial to you, and one will be much more terrible. So he tried to steer me in that direction, but no one was really trying to steer me away from the military. And so I'm living my life. This is over the course of many years. I get to the point where I'm like 16, 17 years old now. And I'm actively working with a recruiter, working on the process of getting into the military. And everything's good in my life. No problems, no nothing. Everything's good. My parents had problems. There have been problems in my life. There have been like calamities that struck my life, and that shook my faith a little bit. And I didn't handle them. Looking back now, I didn't handle them. I didn't see them through the lenses that I should have. And I see now, looking back, that's true. I never liked David in the Old Testament because of the terrible thing that he did to his good friend and his buddy and his protector, and how he cheated, how he stole his wife and killed him. So I never liked David. I didn't understand why he was in the Bible. I thought he should have been kicked out, And because I didn't understand our condition, really. And
Wow.
and then my dad found out was cheating on my mom, and I repressed it. I just honestly didn't acknowledge that it was true, that it was happening. My brother has always been a troublesome brother, conniving kind of. So he would snoop around on the computer, and honestly, I don't really know everything that he was up to, but he would basically track down what my dad was doing on the computer. And so he would print off these conversations he was having with other people, and he was building up this case against my dad because he didn't like my dad. So he would get you back if he didn't like you. But so one day it all blew up, and my sister was telling me this too. Like, I think Dad's cheating on Mom. And I was like, I would just ignore it. I'd be like, let's talk about something else, because it just didn't fit in my. What do you do with this? I didn't know how to handle it. So eventually it all came to a head, basically, when my brother exposed my dad. And I still, I didn't handle it at all. I just pretend like it wasn't happening. Just pretend like that's their business. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Didn't let it bother me. And the reason I was able to do that was because I was, in a sense, being so selfish about, that's not going to affect what I want to do with my life. If he wants to throw his away, that's fine. I'm going to go on and I'm going to do well in my life, and I'm going to accomplish this, and I'm going to accomplish that, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go there. And at this point, probably over the course of finding out about him, I find out my brother gets in trouble for looking at pornography. I start struggling. I don't know why it happened or how it started, or if it was because if it was influenced by my brother and my dad. Probably not. It was probably just on my own. Probably blame them in some regard, but it was truly me. I start struggling with pornography. I start looking at pornography. And I don't have a place for that either, because I've been saved from an early age. This is not stuff that Christians talk about or that they do. So who am I supposed to tell? Who am I supposed to talk about? I just pretend like that wasn't happening either. And blaming my dad for all his sins, but meanwhile, I'm struggling and going down the same path that he did, just at an earlier stage in life, So now I'm about 17, I'm struggling with pornography, but at the same time, everyone in church, thinks you're all great, everything's good, like a little, good in the youth group, good in this, good in that, can teach the Bible, believes this stuff, whatever, I was a good kid. And at the same time, hiding pornography, hiding the stuff that's going on at home, because it's just not something that's talked about in the church. How do you address these things? All these people coming to church, who knows how many of them are cheating on their spouses and stuck in pornography and stuck in this and stuck in that. But everyone comes to church and you talk about just a couple of good things with everybody, 2 minutes with everybody. How's your week? Great, everything's great, kids are great, wife is great, we're great, everything's fine. And it's just that, and then you go and it's like your life is something completely different throughout the week. And you love God, and you give God, as much as you can, but at the same time there's all these other things going on, and you don't see how they mix together. So that's going on, and I'm in the process at this point, 16, 17, of working with a recruiter. All this kind of sparked an interest in me to join the military faster, not go to college, not wait till I was 18, but I was getting my parents to allow me to join when I was 17. Because I wanted to run away from all this mess that was going on, and kind of, in a sense, start over and go conquer life, I started talking to the recruiter, started getting paperwork, everything's going good, testing well, all the tests are going, basically just waiting for, I can't remember, it's been a while, 13, 14 years now, but we were somewhere in the process and everything was going well. And I remember laying in my bed one night just thinking about how everything is just going so well for me. And this thought comes into my mind. And you know, I was reading the Bible every night. I was praying every night. And I like serious prayer. Serious seeking and pursuing God. It wasn't like this fake thing. I didn't love my sin more than God. But I was doing both. And so I had a relationship with God. And I was laying in bed and I was thinking, and this thought crept up in my mind, and it said, have you ever checked with God to see if this is what He wants you to do with your life? And it was such like an overwhelming thought to me, because I was like, this is 10, 15 years of me planning, you know? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I can't not give it up now. Everyone knows that this is what I want. This is what I want to do. What else is there to do? And I just repressed that. I just, you know, I'm not going to deal with that. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? But it kept on haunting me. Every night I'd lay down and think, is this what God wants? At the end of my life, will God say, you went down the path I wanted you to go down?
Whoa.
Or will He say, you did all this on your own? So two things can happen. Either I get to the end of my life having accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish and all works out well, but then I'm laying on my deathbed or whatever the circumstances are, and I'm thinking, did God want me to do any of this? Or you don't get His blessing and everything you try to do crumbles, you know? And I was worried about that too, not as much, but this thought started creeping into my mind. I never really had like a defeatist attitude. So when people would say, you can't make it to SEALs, most people fail. I'd be like, yeah, but if one person has done it, I can do it, so I'm not worried about it. You know, I had like if anyone else can do it, I can do it. I'm not worried about it, you know? But this thought started creeping into my mind. Well, if God wants to destroy you, I mean, you're not going to make it, you know? If God is not happy with you, He could easily be like, nope, you're not making it through. And so what do you do with that? Like, I have no room for like failure in my mind. So I'm like, you know, what do I do with this? So I just, every night, having these thoughts. So eventually I was like, you know what? I know how I'll handle this. I prayed to God and I was like, you know what, God? If you don't want me to join the military and go into the SEALs basically, just let me know. And I won't. And I felt better about myself. But then the next night, and the next night, and the next night, I kept on having these thoughts, like basically saying, do you think you can trick God? Even if He told me, this is not what I want you to do, I'm stubborn. I know I'd be like, well, that's too bad, I'm still doing it, you know? But I was just giving Him an out, basically. You know, like, just come down and have a conversation with me and I'll stop, you know? But not expecting He's going to actually do it.
Wow.
So I'm like, so I start feeling guilty, like, okay, I'm trying to pull the wool over God's eyes. This isn't going to work. So I started to think, and I started to actually do a little self-analysis and evaluation, and started to think, what would, because I know how stubborn I am, what would it take for me not to do this? Because there's nothing, they're like, I can't see anything stopping me. Even God telling me this is not what He wants me to do. It wouldn't have stopped me. So, I don't know how this came to my mind, but I thought, you know, the only reason I wouldn't join is if I literally got sick and could not join. Because sickness, literally being not allowed to join would be the only thing that would keep me. And for some reason, sickness came to mind as something that would prevent me from going in. So I prayed, God, if you don't want me to join the military, the Navy, to join the SEALs, you can make me sick, and that will teach me. And then I won't. And then I was like, I feel really good about myself now. Like, he's not going to do anything.
Jesus.
But then like 2 months later, maybe not even that long, I'm like full blown into physical fitness and athletics, martial arts, running, just everything, getting ready for a very physically demanding, you know, future. Career path, yeah. And I'm like, I'm getting ready, I'm doing everything I can. So I'm like in the middle of all of this, and all of a sudden I just start having this incredible pain in basically my toe. My toe. And I'm like, this is strange, like it's some serious pain, but it's just a toe. So I start fighting through it, but I'm like, this is not good. So I went to the doctor, and they're like, you just injured your toe, it's no big deal. it's really swollen. So he gave me a steroid injection, a cortisone injection, whatever. It went down. I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then like 2 days later, it spread to the other part of my foot. So I go back to the doctor. I'm like, it spread. He's like, it didn't spread. You just injured that part too. And I was like, that's not possible. He's like, yep, you just injured it. So he gave me another shot. So I go away, come back, like a week later, because my knee is doing it. And now, like, I can't even walk on. I'm coming in with crutches because it's so painful. And he's like, you must have injured your knee too. I was like, no, I need a second opinion.
That's crying.
These guys, I don't know even a doctor.
He's the doctor
So-
from The Simpsons.
Yeah. So I started going from doctor to doctor, and they're like, I don't know, like, don't know what's wrong, I don't know what's wrong. And months, like a few months are going by now. This was like started happening like basically March, and we're now getting to like the summer. So I'm now hobbling around in school on crutches, like barely use my feet, my knees all swollen, can't even straighten my leg out, and something is wrong. And I'm like very upset, anxious now because I don't know what's wrong. Doctors don't know what's wrong. And this is not just some mild sickness where you could be like, oh, okay, this is God's will. He doesn't want me to enjoy it. It's like, am I going to be crippled? So this is really starting to get to me. I finally, towards the end of the summer, 6 months later, okay, I've completely atrophied. I look like Skeletor. And I go to the doctor and they're like, this is psoriatic arthritis. And I'm like, thank God, someone diagnosed me. All right, what do we got to do? Because I got to get back in shape. I had already told the recruiters basically like, what's up? You know, it's time to go. And I was like, I can't. I've got to deal with some health issues. And they're like, oh, okay, some health issues. They stopped calling me. I go to the doctor. She's like, yep, psoriatic arthritis. I see it all the time. She's a specialist. I'm like, okay, psoriatic arthritis. Like, you named it. Now we can fix it. She's like, no, you can't fix it. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's a cure for everything. And she was like, no, there's not. It's your body's attacking itself for an unknown reason. It's a autoimmune disease. You might get better, you might not. It usually lasts for 2 years, and then sometimes it goes away. Sometimes it comes back. But she's like, basically, a third of the time it never goes away ever. A third of the time it goes away and comes back and goes away and comes back for the rest of your life. And then a third of the time you might get better in 2 years, it'll never come back. I was like, well, 2 years is a long time, you know, but I could do that. You know, God, I could suffer for you for 2 years, and then I'll do what I want, you know? This is just where it's stupid, but it's how.
No, it's real. It's real, bro.
So, anyways, there I am. Like, people are, you know, and it's embarrassing because everyone saw me as ultra athletic, like. He's going to do that. Like, I had set myself up, just people knew what I wanted to do. And it was, obviously a topic of conversation, like it's the strange things. In a sense, it brings conversation. So people knew. So you go from having this image and this identity, which is not even true because I wasn't that. I just wanted to be that, of this, and then to, like, on crutches and can't even walk and can't do anything now. You know, and in 3 months, you can lose all of it. Absolutely everything. You just completely change. And so that's what happened to me. And so it was like humiliating to go around your friends who like, hey, you want to go play football? I can't even walk, man. Like, what do you expect me to do? Oh, you still struggle with that, huh? Okay, we'll see you, you know? And it's just like you start feeling alone, you start losing your friends, you start losing your identity because you see yourself as this and you've always been this. And now, not only are you not that, but every minute of every day you're in pain. And my hands got nasty. All the skin fell off my hands and just this nasty psoriasis just took over. It was raw. Everything was painful. I could not do anything without severe pain. And it was intense. And all over my legs, my feet, my knees. So I didn't even want to go outside. I don't want to be seen anymore because I don't want people to see me like this, and I can't even get out without pain. So just this heavy depression took over. And at this point, I started realizing some fears. I mean, there's a good chance I'm never, ever going to join the military. And that it's not even just not joining the military. You might not have a healthy life, ever. And I couldn't live like this, you know, and I was just like at this severe depression. So I started to turn my anger towards God, you know. I gave you a shot, you know. I gave this to you. I lived for you. I did this. All you had to do was just, I don't know, bless me. Take care of me, you know. It's all about me. And you did this to me. I even offered to give away my health to you. And instead of blessing me for that, like give me an extra reward for that, you took it away. So I started taking out all my anger at God. I started having these conversations with God. How dare you take away what I wanted? What I wanted was fine. Other people have evil desires out there. They're going around, they're sleeping around, they're doing this, they're doing that. You should have taken it out on them, but you're over here taking it out on me, you know. I'm just trying to have a career. What am I supposed to do, you know? So I started taking it all out on him. I started having these conversations with him. I go back and forth, super bipolar from God, you know, heal me, God, you can fix me, going to people for prayer, and then at the same time basically cursing God and saying, he's the one that took it away, he can fix it, if he wants to fix it, you know, and going back and forth, angry at God, and then, God, you're my only way out, and the next day, I hate you, God, and then the next day, God, you're my only way out. But nothing was happening, nothing was changing. You know, people, something, it was, honestly, it sparked a lot of conversation amongst our own, in our own church, among some of the elders about, like, what is this? What do we do with this? You know? I'm going to them for prayer, and they're like, I don't know what to do here. So I knew God could heal me. I knew he could fix me. I knew that because a prayer had taken it away. And I knew that. And I knew he could heal me, and he was the only hope, because the doctors were like, no, yep, it's bad. And he was just sitting up there doing nothing. And I was just so angry at that, you know? He had basically wounded me deep. And eventually, after trying many medications that did absolutely nothing, got on one that they're like, it's not very healthy, it's not very good for you, it's a lot of dangers with it, basically turn off your immune system, and the symptoms will go away. It's an immunosuppressant. But I'd have to inject myself in the stomach weekly with it, and just some other things. So I finally started getting on that, and symptoms started to go away pretty slowly, but it started to kind of go away. And this goes on and on. I get angry and angry at God, but the symptoms slowly start going away over the course of a couple of years, until finally I'm back in the gym, I'm running again. I had severe knee damage, so I was going through therapy for that because the arthritis is so bad. So going through therapy, going through rehabilitation, lots of time in the gym, lots of time swimming, starting to try and run again, but at the same time, still being sick, still needing this medication, still needing this. And so the recruiters are still pushing, like, what the heck, you know? They want to get their bonus, they want to sign me on, so they're like, what are you waiting on? I'm like, I'm telling you, it's this, I've got this sickness or whatever. And so they basically bring me in the office. This is like a year or two later. Bring me to the office. I show them my medical records, thinking that maybe we can get, because I'm just like desperate at this point, thinking I can get some kind of medical pardon, like with medication. But they basically stamp me, no, you got health problems, so no, we can't take you. And I tried again several times over the course of several years, going to different cities, trying with different military recruiters, and your records are on file. They'd be like, you know, oh, we've never seen him before, okay. And then halfway through the process, they come out with this giant book, and they're like, this is your file. You know? And I'm like, all right, I'll leave. You know? But I couldn't give this up. I couldn't give it up. And I didn't want to do anything else with my life. I was depressed at the thought of doing anything else. Money I had no interest in making money. I had no interest in business. I had no interest in anything else. I only had one idea of what I wanted to be, and I was stuck on that, what I wanted. And he didn't let me have it. And so eventually, I basically said, you know what, God? If this is the way you treat people, forget you. It'd be better off if I didn't serve you than if I served you. You treat those who serve you worse than those who don't serve you. Yeah. So I went off and did my own thing. You know, in my own opinion, I had gotten the most health I could have gotten from basically medication, from exercise therapy, rehabilitation, just, willpower, and gotten back to what, sort of like a close resemblance of the health I had before. And so I just started going living off my life on my own. I had never dated before. I had never had relationships before because to me it was just a hindrance and something maybe like a stumbling block. So I started dating. I started having bad relationships. I started sleeping around. I was already looking at pornography. That hadn't changed. I had never gotten out of it. Continued with pornography, and just honestly was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care what God thinks about it. I don't need him. I don't want him. He treats those who love him poorly, And there's no takebacks, because nothing I could say, no amount of fasting, no amount of praying, no amount of people laying their hands on me, no amount of oil, no amount of this, no amount of that got me better. But I knew deep down inside that if I had gotten better, I'd have been like, all right, screw you, God, see it. And I'd have gone off and done my own thing. I know that. And I knew that. But it just was, I wasn't willing to give this up. And I wasn't willing to let God be God. To the end. So, it took many years and many bad relationships and many just, honestly, depression, loss of identity, loss of hope in life, loss of anything. And God, at that point, started bringing people back into my life, started basically drawing me back to him, drawing me back. It's not working on your own either. Whether you're sick or you're not, it's not working. You're not happier. You're more and more unhappy, more and more depressed. It's not satisfying. You can't get enough sex, you can't get enough pornography, you can't get enough violence, you can't get enough this, you can't get enough that. And it's true. I don't want anything else. I don't want to do anything else. And I just started to give up hope on life, but started regaining hope in God. And he hadn't fixed my circumstances. But so I started nearing the age, and this entire time I'm thinking, if I can somehow manhandle the situation before I'm 28, I won't be too old, I can still join. So for basically 10 years, I'm holding on to this pipe dream that I'm going to manhandle my way to this somehow. I'm going to find a way. But as I near my basically 28th birthday, I start to realize this isn't some miraculous story where he just basically is testing my faith and saying, I'm going to give you everything you want. I just want you to go without for a little while. In my heart, I started to realize, no, this is just not what he wants from me, period. He just doesn't want it for me. And he's not going to let me have it. And he's not waiting for that right moment to say, okay, now I'm going to give you what you want. It wasn't coming. And that, finally, it just, for some reason, for some unknown reason, he softened my heart with the Holy Spirit. And I started to trust him again and say, you know what? I can't do it on my own. I hate my life. I hate everything that I'm about and everything I've done. And it's all for nothing if I just die unhappy. So I need you, God. So I started to get back in touch with believers. I started to go to basically we started like a sexual accountability group, and it turned into many other things as well, because that's not the only thing that young men struggle with. But we just accountability for sin in general, and for our attitudes toward God, whatever it was. So started this group. It grew. Started to help me out of this stuff. And I just started falling in love more and more with God again. Not knowing anything, not having any faith that my health is going to get any better at all. Not having any kind of hope at all that I'm going to get what I want. And there's still nothing on the radar that I wanted to do with my life. I was already a cop by this point. Never wanted to be a cop. Thought it was a bad idea. Didn't like it. Didn't like the academy. Didn't like training. Didn't like being a cop. But there's nothing in life that I wanted. I couldn't see myself enjoying absolutely anything. It was just a job, like any other job. I started to get closer and closer with God. I started to give up what I wanted. Started to say, you know what? I want what you want from me because it's not enough. So as I started to give those things up, he put people in my life, strange circumstances, and strange encounters with people, I guess you could say. They started to feed me, honestly, these ideas that you are what you eat. And so I had this thought kept going in my mind, so I started experimenting with different diets, and come to find out a couple years later that I have some food allergies, and that basically caused my body to start attacking itself. For me, it was a couple of food allergies. So I started to give up those foods, which were honestly difficult in and of themselves, because I didn't realize how hard it is to give up some food groups.
Come on.
You know?
This will preach this.
And it was an experience by itself, just learning how difficult it is to give up food, much less something else. Because I could still eat good food, I just couldn't eat a couple things. But once I finally was able to give that up, my symptoms started clearing up. I got off my medication. The doctors were like, "What is happening? We have no idea. Like, we have no clue. What did you do?" And I had not had a good history with these doctors, because I basically accused them every time I saw them of being lazy and not looking for cures. They're just busy trying to work on the symptoms, and I basically told them I was doing more to try and combat this disease than they were.
Wow.
And sometimes they'd lash back out at me. One doctor told me, "Have you ever thought maybe God wants you to be sick?" And that was too much for me. I found a new doctor. Because I was already wrestling with that was sensitive. But it was true. So anyways, he just started miraculously. I mean, these doctors, it's not miraculous in a sense. It was like, oh, you're allergic to food. That's easy. It's simple. But if you don't know, I was 10 years of suffering through this. And kind of find out it was just, but he withheld that knowledge from me until it was like, okay, now you can't get into this. And you would have on your own. You would have tried to do it. I had to keep away good health from you for a while, for a long time, 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, however long. Like 10 years. So I had to keep away this health from me for that amount of time. And then right at the time when it was too late for me to join is when I'm starting to experience this health again. And these doctors were like, one of them was like, "Can I do a study on you? Because this is like groundbreaking." And I was like, "It's not actually groundbreaking. Apparently a lot of people know this already."
On the internet.
Google.
I was like, I read a couple books. Why don't I just tell you what the books are? You know? So,
They're written by doctors.
Yeah.
Good for
But the reality of it is that God had withheld that knowledge from me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't willing to give this up. And so finally, it took years, and I finally said, "You know what, God? Okay, I will not do this because I can't now." But it took me this long to realize that, and okay, I'm ready to have what you have for me. And all of a sudden, just like I felt this immense like forgiveness, grace, mercy, like all these things flooding in. Like I started to get help for all the things I was struggling with over years. And years of struggling with pornography went away because I started to love Jesus more than I wanted what I wanted.
Come on.
He was worth more to me than a career, than an identity, than whatever. And it was so hard to learn that. I believed it for many years, but didn't realize that it wasn't actually true for me. There was other things that I held higher than him, not knowing it. They had snuck in as idols over the course of many years and grown deep roots, me not knowing.
Wow.
But I should have known. But I didn't, because I wasn't taking good inventory in my heart. And when he had to go through the process of ripping that out, it wasn't quick, it wasn't painless, but experientially, I can say now, truthfully, he's worth more to me now than anything I've ever wanted.
Yes.
And anything is worth giving up for Him.
Right.
And once you finally give into that, all these blessings start coming. And it's not the blessings that some people say of, you'll get everything you ever wanted. Because some of the things that I wanted, they weren't what God wanted for me.
Right.
He's got different things for me. He obviously wants me to be a police officer right now. I've never loved this job. And I've never loved the identity or the stigma that comes with it. I've always had in my mind what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. And it's still there. Like, I still struggle with, like, things will pop up in my mind. I'm like, and I have to struggle with it. Like, you know what, God, you've got better for me. It's a short life, and why would I waste it just trying to chase some dream that's gonna be short-lived anyways?
Right.
You know, we're all gonna die, you know, in a short amount of time. Our lives are short.
That's real.
Why would you waste your life just pursuing the things some of those things are good things, but when we elevate them to a position that's above Jesus, they become idols that cannot satisfy.
Right.
They cannot satisfy, they won't satisfy. And I realized and learned over the course of this time that if God loves you, sometimes He will prevent you from getting a good thing. Because that good thing has become your God, basically.
Yep.
And I wrote a few things here, basically that I learned is that we live, everything we do is we live by hope. Hope in something. We hope that when we do this, this will happen. We hope that when we do this, that will happen. We hope for whatever it is, a good career. We hope for a spouse. We hope for children. We hope for whatever it is. We hope a lot of times for good things, sometimes for bad things. But that's the way we live. But when those hopes become our ultimate, and they're good hopes, but when they become our ultimate hope, they become just this God that cannot satisfy.
Right.
You will lose hope in your great hope, and you will start looking for whatever it is that, for me, like I said, it was a career, it was a job, it was an identity. And if I couldn't have that, I didn't want God. He wasn't being a good God to me. And so whatever it is that you have in your life, I just encourage you to take inventory and look, whether it's a good thing you want or a bad thing. I think the military, for me, it was like neither good or bad. I can see arguments on both sides of, well, you just were in a violent lifestyle and this and that and this and that. Yes, I get that, but I'm a cop now, and it's not much, it's just different, and it's obviously much different, but some of the concepts are still the same. So it could be good or bad. You know, you probably want something better than what I wanted. But if that hope becomes ultimate, it becomes your God, and you don't realize it, and it sneaks in, and it wrecks your whole life. And if He loves you, He might take that away from you. To say, you know what? You are worshiping this idol, and I want you to love me because I have more for you than this could ever provide. Even if you get what you wanted, it will never satisfy, it will never be enough. You'll put so much pressure on that thing or that other person to satisfy you that you'll just, I could, all different kinds of symptoms start coming out. Anxiety about losing it, worry, stress. You start getting angry at the thought of not meeting up to your expectations, or if it's like a spouse, you got your hope in a spouse, then that spouse has to be the perfect spouse, or else, like, they're not satisfying that need that you have, the weight that you're putting on them to be your God, you know?
Ooh,
So the only way that life works is when Jesus is God in your life, and you let Him give you what you need, and you let Him tell you sometimes this is not what you need right now. And I gave up on my life. And when Jesus stepped in, I realized it's so much easier and better this way.
Yep.
You don't get to plan, you get to plan, but you don't get to direct all your steps. He guides you, He leads you. He led me to, after this, He led me to Bianca. And yes, but He started to teach me this is not just one life lesson you have to learn, and then it's all good. You're in like gravy train now. Because then I'm like, getting over this, like life is getting better. And yes, got back with Bianca, we got married. That was not Easy. Good. I learned that I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to actually put God first. How to experientially, I'm still learning how to put God first in my marriage. I learned how to put Him first in my career. I'm learning how to put Him first in my marriage. We struggled very, very, very much when we first got married because, honestly, she was selfish and I was very selfish. We had our ways of living. We had our ways of doing things, convictions, whatever. And now we're together, and it's like, I don't want you looking at that anymore. I don't want you doing that anymore. I don't want you doing this. I don't want you doing this. That. Well, I'm not changing. Well, I'm not changing. Where do you go from there? You know, like that's not going to end up well. And learning how to love, how to say, you know what does God want for us to do? Because He might want me to give up this. He might want you to give up this. But we're never going to come to an agreement unless God steps in and He becomes what we're both pursuing.
Right.
Yes.
So that had to take time as well. Because experientially or knowledge-wise, we knew this. You can read one marriage book and have all the answers, really. Seriously, I'd be like, it's not complicated. But then you actually get into it and you're like, I am not apologizing. I am not saying sorry for that. I was right, and I'm not apologizing for being right. And it's easy to fall into that day after day after day. And we struggled a lot. We listened to one pastor, and it's funny because he's the first person that I actually heard be really honest about the fact, because not everyone struggles this bad early in marriage, but we did. So it's not terror for everyone. Don't be afraid of marriage. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it grows you a lot. So that's good too. But what we learned from this pastor is that he also struggled in his marriage. And there's there were funny things to say, but so true, so deadly true. He would say things like the things we were thinking. Like he would say, for the first 7 years, we would just basically every night go to bed just thinking, how much longer till I die? Because this is so miserable. We were having those thoughts.
I'm just glad y'all stuck it out though. Like most people were like, here's a divorce, goodbye. Like
Well, yeah, we did, some stories are funny. They're not really funny, but they're funny just because how ridiculous they are. But we were really struggling, and as Christians, having a good marriage, and people didn't tell us this before. They really didn't. Our marriage counselors were like, "No, it's all going to be good, no problem." Like, they're like, we never struggled, and we're dating, and we're having a really hard time.
To say that they went to the doctors and you were going to the put into the same circle.
Steroids.
He's got like a piece of notebook paper with his PhD up on the wall.
Yeah. We struggled, and it wasn't, I don't know what happened there either, but we just decided to put God first. If He wants us to be miserable for the rest of our life, by God, we'll be miserable. It's hard to explain because he comes in and he does the work, and you just wake up in the morning like, wow, things are better. And he stepped in and fixed everything that we thought we knew how to do. Like, we know how to do this. I know how to pick a career. I know how to go about living my life. I know how to pick the right woman and get married and be a good husband. I know how to do all these things. God, I don't need you. And every single one of them, I ruined. She probably did the same thing with most everything that she wanted, because we have these ideas. We know how to do right, but we don't. We think we do, but we get in there and we don't realize your selfishness is playing like the number one factor in all this. It's what you want. It's what you think is right. Well, how about God? So we could go on and on and on about different stories and implications of. It's just basically two aspects, and mostly one aspect of my testimony. But it was a big factor in me learning that God is the only God for us. He's the only thing that satisfies. He's the only thing, and He does bless you and give you good things. And He healed me, which was miraculous according to the doctors. But it was at the same time, for me, it was just a food allergy that never surfaced until I was 17. So It's miraculous. I got sick miraculously from God.
You know,
And that was a gift from God for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
And then getting healed was definitely a gift because I'm not on medicine anymore. I could get sick again if I make bad choices for me because I can't eat certain things. But as long as I don't do that, He's giving me health, you know? He's taking care of me. He's blessed us with a happy marriage. He's blessed us with many, many things. Just really lavish. I can't tell you how blessed we are. But it's not because of anything we've done. Because if we had our way in our lives, we would be a wreck. But He loved us, and He wouldn't let us do those things. He wouldn't let us. He kept us away, and it hurt. We got angry. We cursed God sometimes. We did not live the way Job lived through his sufferings. Just didn't do it. But all I have to say, I encourage you to do a couple of things. Take inventory of your own life. And I still have to do this to this day because other things are always competing with Jesus in my life. Always, always, always. To ask God to remove whatever idols you have in your life. Ask Him. Let Him do it. Don't pray like I prayed and just say, just like honestly giving yourself an out, giving Him an out, but really not truly asking for Him to step in and change you.
Wow.
So take inventory. See if you can pick out what you have as idols in your life. Or if you don't know, just ask God to show you because He loves you. And He will. That's a good thing. It's a good prayer. He will miraculously step in and do that. Show you what it is that you're holding on to. It'll be scary. You'll need help. You won't be able to do it on your own because on your own you've made that a God. So on your own you cannot take that away. You worship that now. And you need other believers' help. You need fellowship. You need the Bible. You need prayer. You need someone's shoulder to cry on. But ask God, take away whatever I'm worshiping that's not you. Take away my identity outside of you. Whatever I hope and dream to be one day. I surrender it. Help me to surrender it. Get help. And have Him take it away. Ask that instead He would grow His relationship with you. Right? Because you need Him to replace that thing, or you're just going to replace that thing with something else. You're going to replace a career with like what I did, sex sometimes, or relationships sometimes, or whatever it is. Just it could be anything. It could be something good even that you replace it with, but it's not good when it replaces God. So seek God and ask those things. It's so simple. It's something so simple, and we all know it to be true. The Bible's full of idolatry, but it always seems like it's like those little golden calves, and we're like, we don't worship cows. Easy, good. I'm not an idolater. I never worship an animal. But we worship other things.
Wow.
We worship our own identity. We worship our parents, expecting them to be perfect. I finally was able to forgive my dad. I was able to, sounds stupid. I was able to forgive King David for being a sinner.
Yeah.
Because I started to realize I'm no better than these people. I'm as bad or worse than all these people that for some reason I've lifted up to be idols in my life, put too much expectation on them to be God. There is only one God.
Yep.
And He does not let you down. He didn't mess up. He never hurt anybody. He's a good God. He saved us while we were sinners. So I can forgive my dad now for being messed up. Because I was messed up too. I am messed up. I didn't realize I was messed up before I got into sin. But God saw that I was messed up. He saw that I was worshiping other things. And that I was being righteous in my worship to those things. Thinking that my good deeds would grant blessings from God so that He will grant me what I want. So that's why I was trying to be righteous. That's why I was trying to be good, because I was trying to get good things from God. I was trying to get these things from God. But once I didn't have those idols anymore, my righteousness failed, which means I was never righteous. I was never good. I was a sinner. I was worshiping other gods. That's what I was doing. I had God. He was my God. And He won't let anything stand on His throne. Thank God for that. But I was trying to worship other gods at the same time as worshiping Him. So just take inventory of your own life. And I don't want to be all depressing and everything, because He will win in your life. Make it easier on yourself, not harder.
Come on.
He will win if he loves you. Even if he has to take you through 10 years of difficult times. He is patient. He is long-suffering. You know? And he will do
So
it.
real.
And he has forgiveness and grace for all the things that you put in the way of him. But it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. And it's difficult to understand that. To do it, to actually go out and do it. So anyways, that's, we could talk for days and days about everything that, all the little specific things that I've learned in my life. Obviously, got testimonies for different circumstances, but those are two big ones that played a huge part in my life. So I just got a couple of verses I want to read just to, I want to be just me talking the whole time. But in the book of John, chapter 12, verses 25 to 26, Jesus is talking and he says, "He who loves his life loses it, and he who hates his life in this world will keep it to life eternal. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him." So that's basically saying, it seems harsh, and it's like, what we talk about, hate my life, it doesn't seem to jive with a lot of other scriptures, but he's making a very serious, very harsh point of, you need to be willing to give up everything. When it says hate, we experience that like, I hate my life, I hate my life now, I'm stuck, I hate it, and he gets to that point where you hate it, and then God's like, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to come in and fix it,
It's real.
Yeah.
So he did that. He did that with my idols. He did that with hers. And he brought, now it's like people laughing like, oh my, you guys have a perfect marriage. We're like, if you could have seen some of the things that we went through, we'd call the cops. You'd be like, no, this is not okay. You guys need help. Well, we did need help. That's true.
And the cops did come once.
Stories. So I got another verse.
It's so real.
Luke chapter 14, verses 26 through 33. Says, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple.
That's real.
Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and consider whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter the one coming against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So then, none of you can be my disciple who does not give up all his own possessions." And it's easy to give up what you don't want in your life. For me, at one point in time, it was easy to give up sin because righteousness suited me better for the God I was serving.
Wow.
It was easy for me to give up sin, but I was not giving up what I was putting as God, right? I was not giving up some of my good things. It's easy to give up what you don't want. It's not easy to give up something you consider to be good and necessary in your life, right?
Right.
It's just hard to do it. It's hard. It's not easy. It's sacrificial. You're not going to be able to do it on your own power. I wasn't able to do it on my own power. You need God. You need the Holy Spirit. It's a conversation you have to have with God. I started this whole thing with a conversation with God. And that's how he kicked it all off. And he brought the story through the process. He took care of it. I was experiencing it. I was learning. I was taking one step at a time. But you have to be willing to give up anything and everything. And it's not saying you need to hate your mom and your dad, because I already knew what it was to hate your own parents, to hate your own dad. That was easy. It's not talking about hate them as what we would think. But compared to your love for God, you need to be willing to give them up. You need to be willing to give up whatever they are to you. You need to be willing to give up your own spouse, your own hopes, your own dreams. And compared to your love for God, in a sense, hate those things. Shun those things. No, I don't want a good spouse without God. I don't want a good career if God is not in it. I don't want this if God is not in it. And just one more verse basically clarified that basically he's not talking about hating your family, basically. It's 1 John 2.
Hey, man.
1 John 2, 9 through 11. It basically says, the one who says he's in the light and yet hates his brother is in the darkness until now. The one who loves his brother abides in the light, and there's no cause for stumbling in him. But the one who hates his brother is in the darkness and walks in the darkness and does not know where he's going because the darkness has blinded his eyes. This is the kind of hate that I had for, my dad, for King David, for other people who I thought didn't measure up, right? It was not the hate of sacrificing them to say, God, if you take all that I have and all that I want and all that I am away, you are still enough. You're still enough. That's the kind of hate I did not have. And it's not really a hate. It's just saying, I reject everything except for God. Whatever he gives me is a good blessing. Thank you, God, for that. I will enjoy that. That will be, a good blessing. But it's not. Nothing is worth worshiping. Everything will let you down, no matter what it is. Marriage, you're always waiting for that next thing in life. First of all, you're waiting to get out of whatever grade level you're in, to get out of junior high, to get out of high school. It's, success is right around the corner always. Mm-hmm. College is where it's at. Once you get into college, everything will be good. Once you get out of your parents' house, everything will be good. Once you start getting a job and making money, now you'll have freedom. Once you get a car and a driver's license, now life will be good. Once you get married, now life will be good. And you're always waiting on that next thing to satisfy. And you'll be like, well, if the last 10 things didn't get me there, what am I still chasing all these things for?
Yeah,
they won't satisfy. They can't satisfy. We have an eternal hole in our heart. We need God to fill it. And he does. He does a good job of filling it once you let him. He's not going to let you down. I promise you that. You'll learn it experientially. But anyways, that's all I really have to say. But yeah, I've shared more of my testimony with some of you because we had some one-on-one conversations, and there's obviously more to share. But that's my main point. So.
Thank you. Thank you for being so honest, bro. Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Were you can we ask questions? Were you a cop throughout the sickness? Is that when you went to the force?
I became a cop basically right before I turned 23. So I was still suffering with my sickness, although I had heavy medications. So it still basically, it still sucked.
Right.
I'd basically give myself injections and stuff and take pills and all kinds of stuff. And I would get 3 or 4 days, and I'd have to fight to stay as in shape as I could. I mean, I would have to do lots of physical activity to stay feeling good,
Yeah.
It was a fight, because 3 or 4 days after medicine started to wear off.
I liked how whenever you were explaining the whole military thing, how you weren't trying to explain, well, maybe God didn't want me to go there because I'd get bombed, or maybe I wasn't supposed to have lived this. You just knew that this was pick up, deny yourself thing,
Right.
You just knew it didn't matter why, but you knew you
Yeah.
knew that the Lord was doing a work in you, and that His ways are, like you said, not our ways.
Right.
But I thought that was really powerful, and it like inspired me to like take inventory and put down some things like, like it's not important. This, like, my hopes and dreams are not important. Like, His hopes and dreams are important, and like it was really powerful, man. I hope you know that. That was really powerful, man. Yeah, it was. it hit me in the heart a lot. So I know it's gonna change lives and break chains, because that's a good perspective, man. To see, like, because I've never heard that perspective, man. I've always been the screw up. I guess I was like your brother. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get on Dad. You said what, Dad? All right. Wait till Mom sees this.
Oh my gosh, wait till Mom.
That's what he did.
No, for real though. Like, yeah. So that was cool to hear that. And like, I think that's like a much different ministry, man. Like that, like, obviously I won't think to go there. Like I deal with a lot of the white sheeps,
Yeah.
like right now in my family, and like my mind, I can't think where to go. Like where do I but now I kind of have a place like to go. You know what I'm saying? Because as you were speaking, I was thinking of like people in my family who's, like you said, it suits them more to like walk righteously,
Right.
but there's all these things in their lives they can't overcome,
Right.
and it's like that was just, I don't know, that was good. There's a lot of power in that, because that gave me a place to start with them, and that's much needed right now. But anyway, I'm gonna take off all the floor time. Everybody's looking at me. Yeah, that was good, man.
Thank you.
So, whenever you're first telling God, like, hey God, if you don't want to join the military, just tell me. I've done the same thing, and recently too. Like, hey God, if you just want to put this away, just let me know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, other people, have the same thoughts. It's just you don't really realize it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's common. It's common to us.
Yeah.
Especially in our relationship with God. It's very relational. So when you talk to him, it's like you try and get over on your spouse sometimes and try and manipulate, the reaction you're trying to get, because, you want this result more than you really care how they feel about it. So you're trying to get a reaction. So I was trying to get a reaction of God, the one I wanted. I was like trying to push the right buttons and pull the right levers to get blessings,
Blessings.
And it was like, God's like, what are you doing?
Right.
He knows. You can't trick him. And I know that,
No.
but I was tricking myself into thinking I could trick him. Like,
Yeah.
if I play dumb, then I just won't know any better.
I love what you said about, like, you asked for sickness hoping He would give you blessings instead.
Yeah.
He actually gave you what you asked for, though.
Right.
Yeah, he actually did.
Yeah.
He actually gave
And
you
I
what you
feel like,
asked
as you said, sometimes it's like we may try to manipulate what we want from God. And it's like, oh Lord, and I've done that before. When I was younger, I guess, when I was still kind of trying to understand, because I was always like, I grew up in a Christian household, like for as far as I can remember, and I remember reading that story about Solomon, how all he asked for was wisdom, and then he got all this stuff. I was like, wisdom is
Yeah.
what I need to ask for. So I was like, Lord,
Yes.
I pray that you would give me wisdom, lots of wisdom.
You're like looking at your bank account at the same time. You're like,
More wisdom. No, but it was just, I thought that I could, ask for wisdom and then get everything else like Solomon did. And nothing really changed, but I was just like,
He did give you wisdom.
yeah, he did give me wisdom, but he didn't give me the riches I was hoping for.
Nope.
Wisdom was a code
motives
word.
of your heart.
Yeah, and I remember asking too, like,
You ended up getting wisdom and you really didn't even want it.
I know, I didn't think I was looking for wisdom, I was looking for
Wisdom?
riches,
Oh,
but I got wisdom. Okay.
So now you realize what you don't have.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I've had the same thought before.
Yeah. I was that kid that mooched off of everyone. I was like,
Don't
okay, I
Let me
see
get
that.
some of that anointing. So you're getting them
Yes.
secondhand anointing highs, you know what I'm saying?
I know. Me and my sister, we're like a team. Like we stick together. But like, as far as like, she's very, very right brain. She's so smart, and then I'm very, very left brain. So like, if she
Also smart.
yes, but like she read the dictionary for fun, guys. So whenever there was like a word or something I needed to use to make my paper greater or something, I'd be like, hey Hope, how
that's,
did you?
that's what I turned to because my Mimi had this like really big dictionary. And they have all these words that are, I don't know if they're discontinued, but no one uses them
Nobody
anymore.
uses them.
You know, discontinued. Yeah, and so I remember like when I read
Spell
that
like
paper.
cursive.
Right.
I love
Cursive.
cursive.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm sure they don't even teach that.
People are printing on
usually when I write my
checks.
like when I write essays, I like writing essays as long as it's something I want to write. So it's like if it's a long, I'm like okay. But if it's a long one about something that I don't want to write, like I gotta throw in big words to make up space. So I go to the dictionary. I'm like, what's the biggest word I can use that kind of goes the same thing, you know?
Until they start giving you like a word limit, like a minimum, and then you got like I want to. Smallest word.
Yeah.
Just so the 2 words. Vowel.
You don't use contractions anymore.
No
No contractions.
Oh my gosh. I do that on paper.
So it looks all beautiful and everything, and then all of a sudden the end is like real choppy and
Yes. But anyway, since she's so right brain and I'm so left brain, lots of times we tend to help each other on like just things. Especially if she needs some help
Yeah,
with an
because
art
they want
project
us
or
like draw
something.
stuff sometimes, like draw a plant cell, and mine looks like a booger, and I'm like, how do you fix this? So she'll help me sketch it out.
it's like a booger.
No, but it's great because like you look at it in perspective of the Lord, and He puts people in your lives to help you succeed. It's not like if I were just by myself and I was an only child, Lord knows I'd be failing every grade. But since I have people who can help me, like my brother, he loves making things, and sometimes I'll ask him to help me with math. Like legit, I love math, but he's so good at math, and he's 2 grades below me, but he kills it. So like he does not like doing math, but he's like, if you help me with this, I'll help you with that. And so lots of times the Lord puts people in our lives to like help us through that, and for my life anyway. And again, we grew up in a Christian household for as far as I can remember. Like it just grew, you know. Like my parents started off Christian, and then like they got deeper and deeper with the Lord. And my mom just kind of took off at a point, and I was like, oh, okay. But
Mom getting weird.
and me and my 8-year-old self, I was like, okay, she can have that, Jesus. I'll just do this. And I had to learn from other people's different perspectives. Like my sister, she took off too, and I was like, what? We're doing this? Really? She's over here anointed things like, yes, Lord, pray for my... I'm like, what? What are you doing? And so, like, for the longest time, in my own opinion, I kind of faked things. I was like, okay, well, they're like extra Jesus, so I might as well try to be extra Jesus, even though I did not understand what extra Jesus was. I was like, okay. But, like, the Lord, like, taught me, like, if you want these things in your life, and I want to give them to you, but you have to learn, like, how to steward them and stuff. Like, I want to go into cosmetology, and that's something that I feel like the Lord, that's something that the Lord has showed me I can use most of my talents in. Like, I can make the most out of that, and from what the Lord has showed me. And so, like, I'm 17, I'm like, I got a year, I got a good year. And for me, I feel like a lot of teenagers, they're like, once we get there, bro. And then, you get to that point, and the Lord's like, yeah, but you got all these things you have to go through first, and you're just like, I don't wanna. So I feel like that's where I'm at now, and the Lord's just like showing me. And so I have my grand sister to help, and like all these people that love me, and the Lord's just teaching me through people, like especially you lovely people, how to just take my life how it is and just like live it to the best that God has been able to let me. You know, I work in a coffee shop. I talk to people all the time, and learning how to bring the Lord into conversations is one thing that He's really taught me how to do there. Because like before, you're surrounded by all these people that love to talk about Jesus. It's not hard. Because it's like, oh, you want to talk about Jesus? I want to talk about Jesus. Let's talk about what Jesus does. But like when you run into these complete strangers and the Lord's like, tell them about this, it's like, how do I just talk about that? They don't know you. Like, how do you start so the Lord told me, because then they're like, I don't want to hear that. I didn't ask you. Get out of here. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had a few customers that were like, okay, have a nice day. I'm like, I'm not finished. What? But yeah.
I'm not.
I'm like, the Lord showed me this life for you. Where are you going? Like, but you gotta learn how to like. And it sounds so sneaky, but that's how the Lord gets you. He's like putting it in there little by little. That's how I grew up. They just put it in there. Like, here's this lesson. Don't swallow that nickel. You end up in the hospital. Like, it's just little things. And so that's like just hearing testimonies is so beautiful to me because I'm like, you get different perspectives from everyone. And like, since you didn't grow up that way, you don't know how one person is affected by something, but you grew up this way, so you don't understand where they're coming from until you hear. And then it's like, oh, now I understand where this person was coming from, because they had a similar story. And so it all clicks, because it's like, oh, everybody has something different, and you reach people differently. Right. And so the Lord's like expanding everything, and it's so cool to me. And so that's kind of like what I was learning, like, from James Bianca's testimony, I was like, wow, it's completely different than this person, and then his testimony is completely different than this person, and so, but seeing where everybody's like growing is really, really cool to me, especially like in such short amounts of time, because I've seen, I got a life to live, but life is short though, like, I'm halfway to like being 30 something, like,